everyone, and welcome to this latest video on running technique and running injury. Today we're going to focus on another really common running injury that I'm sure many of you watching this either have or have had in the past, and that's the dreaded plantar fasciitis, which is pain on the bottom of the foot. Now, there's a lot of information circulating around online about plantar fasciitis in terms of what causes it and how it should be treated. So it's easy to get lost in all of that, especially seeing as I would say that a lot of the information isn't necessarily correct. So I'm going to use this short video therefore to take you through a few potential causes as to why you might get the condition and what you can do to deal with it. The first cause is to do with strength in the plantar intrinsic muscles. However, before I get into that, I think it's important for you to understand the anatomy of the foot. So here's a quick graphic to demonstrate just that. The plantar fascia is essentially a band of tissue that runs on the plantar surface or bottom of the foot, indicated here by the yellow shape. The pain associated with the plantar fasciitis injury occurs when this tissue gets inflamed. Its function is to support the longitudinal arch of the foot, which is shown in white. Underneath the plantar fascia, we have the plantar intrinsic muscles that also help to support the arch, which is represented by the salmon-coloured oval. One hypothesis is that if the plantar intrinsic muscles are not strong enough to do their job in supporting the arch, then this in turn puts more pressure onto the plantar fascia, which then has to pick up the slack, resulting in inflammation. Imagine the body's weight coming down onto the arch. The arch will collapse slightly under normal weight-bearing conditions and expand outwards, which is why your foot seems bigger when weight-bearing. The role of both the plantar fascia and the intrinsic muscles is to absorb this load. However, if the intrinsic muscles are too weak and therefore don't absorb enough of the load, then the plantar fascia has to take up the slack. If this extra load exceeds what the plantar fascia can take, damage and inflammation could occur, resulting in the injury. This is also why if a person is overweight, it increases the likelihood of developing plantar fasciitis, as it adds to the load going through the plantar fascia. Now I'm going to take you through a few exercises that can help to strengthen your plantar intrinsic muscles. The first one is a very small movement known as the short foot exercise. It can be hard to get the technique right to begin with due to coordination issues. However, you should aim to shorten the foot by slightly lifting the arch. This will activate these muscles. A key technical point here is to not allow your toes to scrunch up too much. For this next exercise, I am going to get you to scrunch your toes a little bit more. The reason I've included this is because I feel it's very helpful for people with claw toe, such as myself, whereby your toes sort of come up like so in this extended position at rest. So therefore, if we can activate the intrinsic muscles on the bottom of the foot and also the muscles in the deep compartment of the calf, in the posterior compartment, then we're going to be able to pull these toes hopefully down a little bit more. The reason why I'm mentioning this is because this will help to facilitate the windlass mechanism, which I'm going to cover very, very shortly. So for this exercise, we're going to do the towel scrunching. So we're just going to get a towel. We'll need to do it probably on quite a smooth surface, and all you do is you just scrunch your toes like that and try and pull the towel towards you, like so. And then obviously you can reset it and do it again. So you just pull, and it's really activating those small muscles in the foot, but also in the deep compartments in the calf, like I mentioned as well. Okay. The final exercise that I'm going to cover is a little bit more challenging, but of course feel free to give it a go. So we're going to do an exercise known as the toe press up. So we're going to start off in our plank position, our straight arm plank. We're going to make sure our technique is good so that we've got a straight line from our shoulders down to our feet, so no bums up in the air like so. And what we're going to do from this position, we're going to lift up using our toes, okay? So we're just going to lift like so. So the main movement should be coming from your big toe. Also, don't make the mistake of moving your bum as you push up with your feet, so don't go like that in order to get up. The movement should just be coming from the feet in isolation. And it shouldn't take long before you start to feel it in your intrinsic muscles, in your feet. And I also like this exercise because, again, it's really good at simulating the windlass mechanism, which I'm going to talk about very soon. For the second potential cause that I'm going to cover, I'm first going to talk about what is known as the windlass mechanism. Essentially, this should occur during walking and running gait, at the very last part of the drive phase where the heel has already lifted off the ground. Let me play you a short video to demonstrate this. In order to establish the windlass mechanism, we should have a dorsiflexion movement of the hallux, i.e. the big toe, like so, which tightens the plantar fascia. It's this tightening of and subsequent release in the plantar fascia that aids propulsion by releasing elastic energy. Think about stretching an elastic band to its maximum. When you release it, it snaps back with greater force than if you had only stretched it halfway. So essentially, the big toe should have good dorsiflexion range, so it can then plantarflex and help to propel the body along. However, what if we don't have a good dorsiflexion range in that big toe for whatever reason? This is quite common, and this lack of motion is termed either a hallux limitus or hallux rigidus, depending upon the severity. Essentially, this will mean that the plantar intrinsic and deep posterior compartment muscles will have to work much harder in order to get that windlass mechanism established in order to overcome that restriction. This then puts a lot more strain onto not only these muscles, but the plantar fascia also. It will subject it to a lot more lengthening stress, and that could result in the injury. In this scenario, you may also see the body attempt to compensate. To get around the problem of the windlass not working, and therefore the inability to dorsiflex the hallux, the foot compensates by skirting inwards instead. This results in overpronation of the foot. Now, overpronation is often cited as a cause of plantar fasciitis, much like overpronation is often also blamed for most injuries in some way, shape or form, much to my annoyance. However, in this case, this is why it's so important to understand the difference between a correlation and a cause and effect relationship. Just because two things are associated with each other, it doesn't mean to say that one causes the other, as there could be more of an indirect effect like there is here. So instead of attempting to treat the overpronation, we need to correct the cause of the overpronation in the first place, i.e. the restriction in the toe. So what do you do if you have got a hallux limitus or a hallux rigidus? Well, unfortunately, because of the nature of the problem, with it being mechanical, you're not going to be able to solve the problem through muscle strengthening and gait retraining alone, and therefore the individual is going to have to look for other alternatives. So this is probably why the condition hangs around for so long in the first place. So what other things can be done? Well, potentially you can look for mobilization techniques from a therapist, the use of orthotics, or even, if all else fails, as a last resort, maybe some surgical options as well. But this just highlights the need for you to have a full biomechanical assessment for an injury, particularly if it's quite an ongoing one which has been going on for quite a while. This is so that you know exactly what you're dealing with, and then you can come up with a bespoke plan of how to solve or at least manage the problem. So in the meantime, however, there are things that you can do to manage the symptoms of plantar fasciitis. So recently I did a foam rolling challenge whereby one of the injuries and one of the locations that I focused on was the plantar fascia. So if you want to have a look at that, check out day 3 of my foam rolling challenge. So I hope this video has helped, and I'll see you all again soon.